if you're a smaller channel, let's say you have less than 1,000 subscribers, or you're getting less than, let's say, 1,000 views per video, you're going to want to do tests a little bit differently than larger people might. The general advice I have to give is once you're through selecting your video, any type of test on this level, thumbnail, and title, feel free to take your pick. Not too important. In this case, I'll do don't build a desktop app. But when you get to the settings screen at the end, first off, daily or hourly. At small scale, I would not worry so much about testing the moment a video goes out, because in general, you're not really getting a ton of views. If you're closing in on 1,000 views per video, you can run an hourly test for the first day. But generally, it's going to be a tough game to try and get good data off of not that many views. If one thumbnail gets, like, let's say 12 versus another thumbnail gets 10 within that hour each, it's not going to be super actionable. 2 views difference, even sometimes 5 or 10 views difference, isn't really enough to make a decision on. So in general, for smaller channels, you're going to want to go with daily tests. But you're probably going to want to do these at least 2 or 3 days after you upload the video, because then your video will start to just get a handful of views a day. And your goal at that point is not to suddenly have an extra 3 or 4 or 5 views from this thumbnail. Your goal is to get this video suggested or in browse or showing up on people's feeds. And in order to do that, you want to make big changes that last for a while so you can get good data on that. So effectively, the recommended test if you're a small channel is to set a delay of 3 days, or if it's already 3 days old, the video is already 3 days old, just start it normally. And instead of classic, you're going to want to do a consecutive test. The reason for this is consecutive tests are better for showing one thumbnail or title for a few days or even a week at a time, and letting the algorithm really pick up on if that thumbnail and title combination is very good, and if the video now feels very good to people watching it. So when you're a smaller channel, it might take the algorithm a lot longer to pick up on if your video or your current thumbnail and title combination are good and good enough to be recommended to people. So because of that, a consecutive test is generally better because you don't take the thumbnail and title away after 1 day and swap them. With a consecutive test, as it shows in here, you're going to leave the thumbnail up for however many days in a row. So instead of thumbnail A showing up on day 1, day 5, day 10, it's going to show up on day 1, 2, 3. And then thumbnail B will show up on day 4, 5, 6. And so that way you immediately sort of have this insight of if your graph of views started going up or you're seeing a significant change, you know for sure that's the thumbnail and title. I can keep that. I don't need to do anything else. At that point, even you can just cancel the test, commit to those, and move on. But if you run a regular A/B test, if you run a classic A/B test, it's going to swap every day, and most likely that won't give YouTube enough time at your current size to really notice if it's much better and if it's suddenly going to start taking off. And this works for old videos too. For old videos, for everybody, we recommend a consecutive test. But in general, at a smaller scale, most of your videos aren't really getting recommended or suggested to a ton of people. So you have to do something really good for it to get out there and break out of your usual audience. So we want to make sure we give YouTube that time. Beyond choosing daily and consecutive, I just run tests for a while. We always recommend leaving thumbnails up for at least 4 days. In your case, again, the smaller you are, the longer I would leave them. So if you're only getting maybe a few hundred views a video, I would even bump this up to say like 8 days per thumbnail or 8 days per title. So in this case, I just have this title and the original title. So I would probably, as a smaller channel, pump this up to a 16-day test because that's really going to give me a ton of data. Now, is it as satisfying? Is it as quick? Do you get an answer right away? No. But is it a better chance at actually going viral? Is it a better chance at actually getting a larger outcome? Yes. Based on what we've seen, yes. So that's the big recommendation for smaller channels. As always, feel free to post anything in the Discord or DM me if you have any questions.